Hello and welcome. Have you ever visited somewhere and found it to be really familiar? Perhaps a town, perhaps a building, perhaps part of the countryside. And yet, as far as you're aware, you have never, ever been there. Have you ever been in conversation, let's say, with someone? They say something and or do something and you respond to what they said and what they did. And as it's happening, or just after it, it seems to be almost like a replay. This has happened before. In essence, you have a strong sense of déjà vu. If so, you're not alone. However, have you ever imagined that the life you're leading now is not the only one that you've led? In fact, this is more than imagination. You know, you have a detailed recollection of you living a totally different life, perhaps a different country with a different family, maybe speaking a different language. And again, if that's the case, you're not alone. There are numerous recorded cases of young children who have had such an experience. And I thought we'd look at one case. This is about Cameron Macaulay, who was brought up in Glasgow, and I'm going to play you some clips from a documentary which was broadcast in 2006 on Channel 5. So here's Cameron.
I lived in the White House with my mum and dad and my 3 brothers and sisters.
At the time that documentary was recorded, Cameron was sure that he had a family in Bara, which is over 200 miles away from Glasgow, and he could describe details of Bara and his time there, his life there. Brothers and sisters, a white house on the beach, a black and white dog, his Bara mum and his Bara dad, as he called them. Here's his Glasgow mum.
At first I just thought, oh, he's making things up. And then I was thinking, how does he know the name Bara? Why is it Bara where none of us have been or have any connection with?
And here's Cameron talking more about Bara.
Favourite place in Bara was the beach, and I took my dog with me and I play with him and my brothers and sisters to play.
He says in like small planes and they land on the beach.
In this clip, Cameron is talking about his Bara dad, Shane Robertson.
My Bara dad got knocked down. Shane Robertson.
Shane Robertson?
Yes.
So who was Shane Robertson again?
My Bara dad.
My Bara dad.
Was that fast?
Is that the one that got knocked down?
Here's Cameron talking about his Bara mum.
My Bara mum had long hair and she got cut short.
He just keeps saying to me, you'll really like her, she's really nice. One time I said to him, joking, do you love me or your Bara mum? And he says, I love you both the same. I thought he would have said me, but he never.
As the documentary went on, it became apparent that Cameron was getting more and more distressed, more and more upset about missing his Bara mum and his Bara family. And I think probably around about then, his mum Norma would be considering whether she should take him to Bara, which in due course they do. But also being, in my opinion, a very sensible individual, what she did was take him to see a psychologist, Dr. Chris French, who's sceptical about such, shall I call them, paranormal events and experiences as being described, in this case, by Cameron.
You can get situations where I would bet my bottom dollar that what we're dealing with are false memories. I mean, kids have fantastic imaginations, as I'm sure you're aware. Obviously, these days, you know, we've got lots of TV programmes, lots of TV channels, we've got the internet. Is there any possibility, do you think, that he might have, say, seen something on TV at some point, some programme that was...
I'm not saying it's not possible, but I've never seen Bara on the television. I'm trying to think of times that Cameron would be watching programmes without me, or just like that sort of programme, but not to my knowledge.
But I mean, it is possible that there was someone who told Cameron stories about life on the island of Bara and then moved away.
Like, I know everybody kind of round about, and as I say, especially the fact that Martin and Cameron are so close in age, so why doesn't Martin know all this?
Again, I mean, it may be
do
that...
You know, I'm just saying that
I take your point entirely.
I take yours, but I'm just saying, I'd be more than practically 100% say, but there's nobody been told about Bara. I've asked my family. None of us know even Andy. It comes from Bara, been to Bara.
But it may not be coming from your family. You're either dealing with a situation where he has picked up the information through normal sources, or maybe, just maybe, you know, there's something kind of much more interesting and challenging going on here.
And I think that Dr. French is absolutely right to have as his go-to theory false memories. False memories are much more pervasive than many of us give them credit for being. And in children, well, this can easily happen. So has he seen something on TV? Has somebody said something to him? All very plausible. His mum, however, doesn't seem to think that that's what we're seeing here. And so whilst it's good to be sceptical, it's also very good to get a second opinion. So Norma, Cameron's mum, goes to see Karen Majors, who is an educational psychologist.
Nice to meet you.
And you.
Cameron's mum.
It's really interesting. Basically, how Cameron describes his world really seems to me quite different from how children with imaginary friends and imaginary worlds describe their experiences. He's saying it's real, and even very young children with imaginary friends will say they're only pretend, you know, or they'll call them my invisible friends. Children who have imaginary creations feel in control of those imaginary creations, so, you know, they can determine what's going to happen in that world. It really feels like Cameron isn't able to direct what's going there at all. There is a consistent pattern, and Cameron's experiences don't really fit into that pattern, so I think it's about exploring other possible interpretations about how to understand Cameron's experience.
And so Karen's conclusion is that this isn't the usual kind of fantasizing where a child tends to know that it's made up and make-believe, and very often they will change the narrative to suit what they want to happen at any particular point in time. So I found that to be really interesting. And now we're going to get introduced to Dr. Tucker, who's a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia. And he's the director of research into cases just like Cameron's.
So this is a worldwide phenomenon. It takes place in places and families with a belief in reincarnation and places and families without a belief in reincarnation. And in a number of the cases, the child's statements have been verified to be accurate.
As the documentary unfolds, it becomes apparent that Norma, Cameron's mum, has decided to take him to Bara. And Dr. Tucker is so interested in Cameron's case that he decides to go along and find out exactly how this thing plays out. Here he is interviewing Cameron.
This is Dr.
Hi,
Tucker.
Martin. What can you tell me about the house that you lived in?
It was white.
How many stories were there? Was it just one level or was it more than one?
One level.
Yeah. Did you see your dad get knocked out by the car? Yeah. You remember his name? Yeah, what was his name?
Shane Robertson.
Shane Robertson. Do you remember what he looked like?
He had spiky hair and he always wore shirts.
Spiky hair, is that what you
And
said?
always wore shirts.
Norma finally has someone to talk to who really understands her experience.
It was getting to a point he was that convincing. I'm sure folk thought I've adopted him, or like he wasn't really mine, because he spoke so convincing about this other family.
And has it slowed down, or is it still going as strong as ever?
It calmed down for a wee while, but then it's back.
Is he excited about the trip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here is Cameron on Bara. He's recognising things. He's happy to be there. In fact, he's happy to be back.
Their bags.
He was saying he used to go over that bit over there, and when they used to see the rainbows, they used to try and jump up and get them. They're too high, aren't they?
Well, we're certainly off to a good start. I mean, he feels that he recognizes the place. He said to his brother, I told you it was true, and he's very excited about being here.
Lovely. I must have always come down to this bit, and I must have up to the beach.
Did you? You'll be able to show me, won't you?
Very exciting. If we can verify his statements, it'll be a great case. Looks like a place that doesn't change too rapidly, so hopefully he'll be able to recognize some things.
Feel happy to be back.
Feel happy to be back, do you? You look happy to be back.
Then Dr. Tucker and Norma meet up with Callum McNeill, who's the local historian, and ask him about this Robertson name, and Shane Robertson in particular. The news isn't good, however.
Okay.
Callum McNeill.
Nice to meet you.
Certainly the names don't immediately come to my mind. Certainly the name Robertson does feature, but certainly not the name Shane. And the name Robertson itself only features occasionally in the history of the islands.
And so deflated, they kind of make the best of being on Bara, which is no doubt not that difficult to do. Beautiful place. But then they get a call from Callum, who wants to see them urgently.
Phone call today informed me that there were people living with the name Robertson on the north end of the island, in a house by the shore. It's a white house by the shore. Couldn't get much closer to the shore.
The reason that the name Robertson didn't fit initially was because the Robertsons were from the mainland. And so what we have now is a situation where the house that goes with the name Robertson and fits the description, white, one story, on the beach or close to the beach, is, well, they can visit it. And that's exactly what Cameron, his mum, his brother and Dr. Tucker do.
Is this your house? He's just saying he's excited, but he's sad as well. Can we come in? We've got a fire like that, haven't we?
Could see the beach when I looked out the window, and sometimes my brothers and sisters could go by themselves, and I looked out my window and I saw them playing.
Did you think that Bara mum was going to still be here? Eh? No.
I don't know about you, but I thought that that was one very, very sad child. I don't know what he was experiencing, but it seemed to be incredibly profound. Goodness knows what he was thinking. Anyway, the family then returned home, and probably because of some connection to do with the fact the documentary was being made, although I'm not sure, a genealogist got involved and she managed to track a member of the Robertson family who could have been, depending on whether the time frames are right, the 1960s, could have been on holiday at the same time that Cameron thought that he was a child on Bara. Here's what happened.
This is the house here, and down below the house, a lovely beach.
Was that what it was like when you were in Bara?
Yeah. But could you recognise it quite well when you went to see it?
Although he was saying it had changed.
Yes, you see, I think it has changed. I think the person who's bought it now has modernised it.
Do you have a dog? Was there a dog there?
Well, certainly Callum and Peggy, who lived in the house, they had a dog, a sheepdog. Well, certainly there aren't any Shanes in our family. There were, one of my uncles was called James. Now, Seamus, James, you know, that's quite a common connection. One of my cousins is also called James, but certainly not a Shane. Was the car accident on Bara?
This is what we don't know. He doesn't seem to be able to tell you.
I don't know of anyone in our family who died in a car accident.
So what do you think? No Shane, but a James, a Seamus, Robertson, Shane Robertson, perhaps. No car accident, but a black and white dog. Parts of Cameron's story are uncannily accurate, but not all of it. It's not 100% accurate. And yet, I wonder, I can't say for certain one way or another. I can't quite make my mind up. It is possible that Cameron did see something on television. It's possible that somebody told him a story. It's possible that he saw a photograph or something in a newspaper. But he did seem to be acting in a way that wasn't, I suppose, in alignment with other children's fantasy lands, fantasy worlds, fantasy made-up characters. But then again, we haven't interviewed all the kids on the planet, and so who knows how unusual that actually is. And he did really seem to want to get to Bara, and when he was there, he was extremely happy, and he talked about being back. Now, how much of that is not deliberate, but accidental influence by those people around him? A raise of the eyebrow, a sigh, a lean forward, an expectation that was kind of guiding Cameron into saying some of those things. Because with the best will in the world, you would want your child to be happy. So the intake of breath and holding it and looking in certain directions, all of those micro little cues and clues people can pick up on. Children definitely can pick up on. So for me, I'm not sure. But I'm not certain either that this isn't an example of a past life. And so the jury's out. But what's your take?